So, of course, you're a secondary high school teacher, right? Yes. And but there are some stories, like you talk about Zen and everyone likes to beat up on Christopher Columbus and apart from that, what are some other implications you think this may have? What if I'm a elementary or middle school teacher and I want to take something away? What do you think the takeaways for folks who teach younger kids might be?
I get that a lot. I actually don't think that there's too many differences, to be honest. Like, some things are not grade appropriate because the kids won't understand it. Like, they read it, they won't understand what it is. So it's not grade appropriate. But I'm not saying this is what you're asking, but I get versions of that question. I go off to the suburbs and they'll say, like, just a podcast, just ask me this. When do you think it's appropriate for us to be discussing race with young children? Like, and a white guy asked me this, when do you think it's appropriate? And I'm going like, what? When is it appropriate? Always. And I'm thinking, ask yourself, when do brown people start speaking about race with their children? That's when you should start speaking about race with your children. Like, I had to learn where to hold my hands when the police pulled me over when I was like absurdly too young to drive. Like, we're talking race all of the time. And the guy was like taken aback a little bit. He says, well, like, really young? Like second graders? I'm like, yes. Like, why not? But I think that's a big problem. And that's part of the Jefferson thing, where it's like, well, my kid's in this idyllic phase where life is just great, and we don't need to talk about that hard stuff until, and I'm like, the brown people in your life have been having these conversations with their children from the beginning. The second their kid comes home and says, why is my hair different? The second my kid, like, we've been having these conversations. I say early, elementary school teachers, you can have, well, not the N-word, but like, many of the conversations are in this book. There are junior versions of. I'm not here for any excuses about kids are too young. I'm sorry, because that tends to cut along racial lines. Like, kids are too young. Brown kids are never too young for anything. We're always too old. Like, literally, we're always too old. When you think about, but we're like, our girls are too old. They should have known better. They're old. Our boys are too old. They're too, like, we expect them to be grown-ups when they're like 5. Our white children get this extended, like, Donald Trump Jr. childhood that lasts into, like, their 50s. It doesn't make any sense. Like, I'm sorry, that like, personally gets under my skin about how we have to just maintain the innocence of young, privileged white kids.
I appreciate that response, because I get asked that question as well as a college professor, but I kind of answer that question as a parent. I have 2 kids that are teenagers now. As soon as they could say it, I can respond to them and treat them like knowledgeable people. And so as early as the ideas are implanted, that's how early they could talk it.